Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Duval Dive. Of course, I am Kyle Nass, the student of the game.
I'm Travis Holmes with BigCatCountry.com.
And you're listening to Sing on the Believe Podcast Network. Travis, it's great to do the thing and talk some NFL. I have to be honest, I've been all over the place with, football returning to Orlando in the spring here. Shouts to the Orlando Storm and, of course, BP, my co-host on the Storm Surge podcast. But, yes, shameless plug, sorry. But it's good to get back in and talk with these Duval divers about some mock draft goodness. But before we jump into that, a little bit of house cleaning going on. I mean, we do want to mention that Liam Cohen and company are headed over to the NFL winter meetings. Goodness only knows what's going to come out of that. But I think the bigger story, I don't think this is arguable. The 5th-year option picked up for one Anton Harrison. Travis, I think this is another anchor towards year 2 of the O-line build, right? Say what you will about the O-line situation here, but according to stats dropped by our friend Daniel Griffiths, DG doing it again, Action News Jax, 96.8 PFF rating, rated just over above Cole Van Lanen, and then Walker Little at 94.9 by comparison. Say what you will about the numbers, the punchline in these numbers add, shall we say, a measurable unit to display that today Anton is the best offensive tackle on the roster.
I mean, yes, I guess that's technically
it could be
have to take. I didn't think about that from that perspective.
It can't be a by default. He is, just like, people say the Jags don't have a number 1 receiver right now, that kind of conversation, whether you believe that's true or not, that's the conversation. I think it's the same kind of thing though. And Anton's part of the rebuild for sure.
Oh, no, absolutely. And the 5th-year option was something that was always going to happen for Anton. I mean, it gives him a guaranteed $19 million in the 2027 seasons. So again, this is not for this year. This year, he's still under contract. This is 4th year. He'll be under contract for next year, and maybe they'll work out an extension at some point. At that point, to tag on to the end of it, we'll see where that goes. Assuming Anton has another year like he had last year, this is going to be a very easy conversation for that Liam Cohen, James Gladstone regime. As Dan Griffin put out on the stats, Anton Harrison was 35th of 92 in pass block efficiency for offensive tackles. Cole Van Lanen was 39th, so he was basically in that same range. So he did give the Jacksonville Jaguars some major stability up front, and being able to be comfortable leaving those 2 guys on an island was absolutely something that was beneficial for Liam Cohen the second half of that season, because he did the same exact thing with Cole Van Lanen on that left side. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I can't add any more to that. And with that, I'll say this. There are times when the comments catch me off guard with something that I should have brought to you at the start of the show, Travis, and this is one of those things. Shouts to Radius. What is it? Duval Dive Lifer. He jumps in. Talk of replacement refs again all of a sudden. Where did that come from? It's very funny you mentioned that, Radius, because, and listen, I was, just making a joke about a shameless plug watching UFL football this weekend over at Intercoast Stadium. The Orlando Storm did their thing against the Columbus Aviators. But what's interesting is with the existence of the UFL such that it is, if it flourishes for any length of time, it's training and development, Travis, for not just players and coaches, but officials as well. And Travis, I don't know if you know, but so many officials are up there in years. Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're up there in years. They have these great jobs that they do full time, and then they referee on the side. And that's been a long time, complaint of many fans, supporting the NFL, is the fact that you have these bad calls that's being made by guys who do this part time, and it doesn't feel like there's much accountability from the league. Now, that seems to be part of the conversation now with the NFL Refs Association, with these negotiations with the teams, with the league versus the refs, and trying to negotiate the land on what that pay increase is going to look like. Are they going to have full-time refs? What the accountability is going to look like, and et cetera, et cetera. But that's the reason for that conversation is happening right now, is because they're in the middle of negotiations. And whenever you're in the middle of negotiations, messy things always kind of get out into the public. That's kind of how it works.
But this has nothing to do with me bringing up the UFL and the training model. I think an element of this is the refs pounding the table now. Well, they'll have more leverage at this point than they will later if the UFL maintains and is an immediate pen from which they can pull in replacement officials. Because listen, last time when they did this, it goes back far enough, it was hilarious that the officiating didn't prove all that much when they came back. I don't care what the propaganda tells you, okay? And here's the other thing. It was also lacking credibility because they were having to go everywhere to find officials. They were pulling in dudes from the Lingerie Football League, okay? This brings a more legitimacy than they would have otherwise had. And can you imagine The Rock and Danny Garcia promoting officials?
No, my God. This is a legitimate threat for the NFL refs. So from that perspective, the NFL has a legitimate threat on the side where they can say this and actually maybe even mean it. I'll give you that. That actually makes some sense. So we'll see kind of where the negotiations go. But for the most part, you're not going to get a strike. Like, you're not. These guys are close. They'll get a last second deal done and it won't be much of a conversation.
Perfect point from you. This is no different than a contract negotiation with a franchise quarterback. It'll be the 11th hour. They'll get things done. This is posturing. But that being said, the question is, you mentioned in radius, I think that has to be a factor for sure. But listen, enough of that. Can we please get into the nitty gritty? Now, before we get into it, this is a legitimate question I think we need to address here that Storm the Desert puts in. Again, Storm always from the top rope. I get that drafting players is a great way to make the roster cheaper long-term, but there's no way they'll actually use all their picks this year, right? Storm, did you forget who the GM is already? All right, it's Mr. F them picks himself. What are we? No, listen, I'm joking with you, but I don't see.
We had this conversation a few weeks back, though, like when there's two arguments to be made. Yes, they're unlikely to use all 11 of these picks. However, there is an equal opportunity where you could be misevaluating the depth of this roster and you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen next year, to say, like, you don't know what's going to happen in the middle of a season as far as injuries are concerned and just all those different things where it's just like, you may think this Jacksonville Jaguars roster looks great, and then all of a sudden, does it look great if they miss 3 offensive linemen that get injured? That's what happened back in the 2008 season. And I say 2008 because I just had a conversation with one of my guys Sunday. When I told you I went back to Jacksonville. I went to Jacksonville and I just ran into one of my dudes, randomly at Home Depot. So back in the 2008 draft, a lot of the older Jacksonville Jaguar fans, y'all probably remember, like, that draft showed us exactly what teams should not do. Like, Jacksonville Jaguars fans, y'all know that was the Derek Harvey draft, when we had like James Shaq Harris as the GM here in Jacksonville. Like, they went 11-5 the previous season, and then they ended up winning 5 games the next season after that because they just had a rough go of it as far as injuries are concerned. They traded away Marcus Stroud that offseason. They lost Grady Jackson and Bobby McCray to free agency, and they had major holes at the edge spots. So they traded up like 18 spots with the Baltimore Ravens and drafted Derek Harvey. That's what drafting for need looks like. That's the opposite of what we're trying to do here today, because it's like, hey, the Jacksonville Jaguars, we said it a few weeks back, the Jacksonville Jaguars have put themselves in a prime position right now to draft a few places and they'd be just fine. Like, there's no urgent dire needs. There's nothing that's an alarm going off where it has to be it has to be this pick. Like, even though we talk all the time about defensive tackle here, they have Eric Armstead on the roster. They have Devon Hamilton on the roster. If they didn't get those guys, I know fans would be a little bit like, oh, I don't like this. But also, I think that it wouldn't be dire straits like some other teams out there. And that's kind of my overall point. So, yeah, Derek Harvey was out of the league it's not out of the league, but he wasn't on the Jacksonville Jaguars roster in less than 3 years. He didn't finish out his rookie contract. And even their second round pick, Quentin Groves, didn't in 2 seasons on the team. Like, so I'm using that as an example to say, hey, man, they passed over some better talent like Jordy Nelson, Matt Forte at running back, Deshaun Jackson at receiver, Tracy Porter at DB. Like, all these guys, they are guys who they passed over because they just had to have a defensive tackle. They just needed a defensive tackle. That's what I'm hearing from the fan base these days when they say it got to be defensive tackle at 56. Does it? Does it? does it depend on which defensive tackle? Are you sure about this? So let's have a real BPA kind of conversation to find out maybe this thing's gonna work out if you just let the board come to you instead of you trying to force these picks because it's just got to be this guy. I hope that kind of makes sense. That's where my angle is.
Well, and it's where the focus of our picks is going to be today there too. That'll transition nicely before I make this final point, because when we go through the picks today for Mock Draft 2.0 there, Duval Divers, we're doing it with BPA in mind first and foremost. We might even say FMDTs. Who knows? We've talked a lot about how this dang board is supposed, this draft board this season is allegedly light on defensive tackles. But there's this other option too. Travis, we're not defining the word use. One can use picks for something other than selection. Timmy Devil in these comments, F them picks, but not com picks. Correction. Timmy Devil, I'm going to have to say the line to you again, even though there's a short on the Duval Dive YouTube page, even though I'm fairly certain I mentioned it on one of, if not the most recent edition of the Duval Dive. You cannot F them picks unless you have picks which are existing to be F'd. You have to have them in the chamber. And thus, the current stable of picks this is what they have. They can trade for 27 picks, for 28
Lord.
picks.
You can't F them picks if you ain't got them to F. Like, that's just a crazy landing point, but I understand exactly where you are. How is
that any different than our guy?
Oh, man. Okay. So, oh, Jesus. Jesus. All right. Goodness. All of a sudden, I lost you. I can't even hear you, brother. That is interesting. Nah, if you got it, keep going. Yeah, I think I'm having an issue with my headset. So give me a second. This is interesting. All right. All right, there we go. So, as Kyle hops back in, ladies and gentlemen, hey, just so you guys know, the NFL owners meeting is going on in Phoenix right now. Then they are expected to vote on whether or not the Jacksonville Jaguars will be playing in in Gainesville and or Orlando. We kind of know where this is going. If you've been paying attention at all this offseason over the past, 6 months, you kind of know the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be playing in Orlando in the 2027 season. They're finally going to get that rubber stamp from the NFL owners, and they'll finally be able to kind of make this bad boy officially official, if that makes sense. But it's kind of been widely known that Orlando was going to be the favorite for the Jaguars to play, especially with the reconstruction that's going on of that stadium actively as I'm speaking to you guys. We talked about that a few weeks back. So yeah, we're generally good to go there. And we already talked about the fact that Anton Harrison's option is going to be picked up per GM James Gladstone from that NFL owners meeting. And that's going to be, again, guaranteed $19 million for that 2027 season. So overall, we're good there. Kyle, I see, just hop back into the green room, and let's see whether or not his audio is working at this point. Nope, not hearing the thing. Oh, But no, when we talk about having a BPA draft, like this is kind of what we're talking about, like not making the mistakes of the previous Jacksonville Jaguars regimes, like that 2008 draft, where you have someone like a Derek Harvey and you just got to have a defensive end because you won't have one on the roster. Jaguars don't have them kind of problems. So like the Jaguars may have a few issues on this roster, and I can agree. I can even get down with y'all when you say like, hey, they got to give a three technique defensive tackle, but they got Eric Armstead on the roster. Like, so they can add a supplemental guy there to kind of breathe behind him. That makes total sense to me. Maybe a third edge, rotational edge. They needed that for years, basically since Arden Key was last year. And yeah, I understand that. Like you want to have a wave of guys like that Seattle Seahawks, like the Philadelphia Eagles. I fully understand that. I even agree with you. But maybe interior offensive lineman, maybe your swing tackle, depending on what you want to do with Walker Little. But you do have Walker Little on the roster. You don't have to trade him away. You can keep him on the roster and be just fine in that spot. And the same thing applies for, whatever you want to do at Mike linebacker, but that's assuming they don't believe in Ventrell Miller, which we don't know. That's a big if. So overall, like that's basically, I just counted like 5 to maybe 7 guys overall, what the Jacksonville Jaguars actually need. And that's including depth. Like if you want to involve cornerback depth and tight end to that list, I got you. Like, but the Jacksonville Jaguars have 21 draft picks over the next 2 years. So none of that is urgent. You have the ability to truly draft best player available. So again, that is what we're here to talk about. Like kind of that's what we're here to that's kind of what we're here to do. So I know Kyle's having his audio issues, but I will see if we can bring this bad boy up and kind of get this bad boy started, and hopefully he will be able to join the pod. But yeah, so let's get into it. So Jacksonville Jaguars, we're using this bad boy from the Pro Football Network mock draft. If you guys have a better one that you want us to use next time, let us know. I mean, we've used them all different ones on different mock drafts. But all right, so getting this thing started. As it currently stands, again, the aim is best player available. We're not going to go crazy. We're not going to be ridiculous and just trying to draft like a freaking quarterback if that just happened to be the best player on the board. But again, the Jaguars are in a pretty reasonable spot where they can kind of go anywhere, if that makes sense. So like as it currently stands, you got Emmanuel Pregnon, the offensive guard out of Oregon, just went one spot before the Jacksonville Jaguars are on the board, unfortunately. So then you look at the board and you kind of figure out
corner first.
I haven't done a thing yet.
No, I'm joking, dude. That's how I wanted to check my audio. Apparently I'm back. That's a good thing. Okay, sorry, Air Divers. Keep going, Travis.
So no, we just got this bad boy started because again,
let's go.
At the end of the day, you figure out who is the best person that is on the board. Position generally be damned, and I say position generally be damned. Like obviously not drafting a quarterback. If you have a position where you're 3 deep, you're good to go. But if you want to draft the best players and see what happens, yeah, you got a bucket of 5 or 6 players who are probably going to be close, and if the need is close. At that point, you go with the need. So at this point, they have rated, Ty Simpson out of Alabama as the top quarterback, top player that's available on the board. Obviously, that's not reasonable for the Jacksonville Jaguars. A guy like Christian Miller, defensive tackle out of Georgia, makes some sense at least. I don't know if I want to necessarily go that route. I mean, Devon Hamilton kind of replacement, if that makes sense. Got the Max, I can't even say his last name, Eidenanker out of Arizona State. It's a swing tackle potential option who's dropping in the draft on this situation. And then you have Eli Stowers out of Vanderbilt, tight end, which is again is a pretty reasonable option for me personally. Do you have anywhere you're leaning? Because I already have my option where I'm leaning. I want to see where you're at.
I mean, it's too soon to have the conversation about the tight end. I will grant that. But linebacker and offensive tackle don't look too bad.
Yeah, I was thinking offensive tackle, but I didn't want to stay. Because again, I like David. What is it? Igno Beeson. I can't even say his last name. The cornerback out of Ohio State. I was looking at his film just earlier this afternoon. I thought it was funny. Yeah, and I thought it was real funny. I was literally just looking at him earlier this afternoon, and I was like, ugh. And he's really dang good in press man. Like his big question mark is whether or not he's going to get the right coaching and just be able to break on balls. Like because his instincts aren't always the best when he's in off coverage. But we've seen those issues against pop up with guys like Monteric Brown, and he looked great this past season. So like I think it's a fine situation. You're not knowing how long they'll take to develop those kinds of traits. So, but overall, yeah, I'm with you. We'll go with the swing tackle option.
Let's
Next,
go.
Island Anchor out of Arizona State to start this thing off. And again, this is the test for all of us because, again, we know every draft board is going to be a little bit different. And we want to see what is this going to look like if you truly just pick the best guys on the board and maybe you take a few risks later in the draft. But overall, we want to see what the draft board is actually going to look like for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, like, Christian Miller is, again, still falling. The Jaguars are at their pick 81 right now. You got Dominique Orange, Big Citrus, who's still on the board. So you got two nose tackle options basically to take over for Devon Hamilton as your top two guys on the board by far. If we're doing BPA, BPA,
the conversation to be had is, do you think Christian Miller's a fit, right? And we had this conversation with Jamal St. Cyr in draft 1.0. Christian Miller is the wrong body type, allegedly, right? Now there's
he's the wrong body type to take over for like an Eric Armstead. He's not your three technique kind of guy. He's your nose tackle type of guy. And I think your audio just went out again. Nose tackle type of guy. But he's honestly very similar to the Dominique Orange kind of style. So if you're going to go with the nose tackle option, then yeah, you absolutely got it. It just feels very clear that Christian Miller is just screaming to be in Duval Teal next year. So why not just do it? So unfortunately, I have to make that executive decision for Mr. Kyle. And we'll keep this bad boy going. Christian Miller, you are a Jacksonville Jaguar.
I'm not that mad at it, to be honest.
I'm happy to hear it. So this just happens to be one of those draft classes where the offensive, like the nose tackle, defensive tackles just aren't going early for fill in the blank reason. Because now you got Dominique Orange, who's still on the board at the Jaguars' 88th pick, but you got Joshua Josephs, the edge for the Tennessee, the nose, still available there. Ted Hurst, wide receiver, Georgia State. Malik Muhammad. Ooh, boy, Malik Muhammad. That's a good one for me. Yeah, I'm sorry. I like Malik Muhammad, but that's a hard one for me because I like Malik Muhammad.
Here's the thing. And I know we said need would be a tiebreaker, and I know there's talk about Ted Hurst doing the thing here too. It depends on how much faith you have in the receiver core. But Malik Muhammad, they're having to pull in Travis Hunter to get things together. There's so many unknowns. I'll even throw you a bone and say Malik Muhammad's the answer here as well.
Right, because their draft board and my draft board might not be the same. I may not necessarily agree with how they have it listed, but yeah, Lawson that I knew Robert was going to say it. Hey man, Lawson linebackers are getting thin, and it's not wrong. That Deontay Lawson being available there, it's hard to say no to that when you know you have a need at linebacker, but. Yeah, Malik Muhammad is a really good outside cornerback. And that's the big problem with saying, hey, if you think you're in a reasonable spot as far as the Jacksonville Jaguars roster makeup, and you say, hey, no, I think they're fine. I think Travis Hunter playing outside corner with Monterey Brown is a great situation for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they don't have as dire of a need at wide receiver, then yeah, Travis Hunter coming off of surgery, Jordan Lewis coming off of surgery. You want to make sure early in the season that you still have depth, and if any setbacks happen, any injuries happen, any of those things, you are still in a good situation at cornerback. I think that's a solid spot to be in for the Jacksonville Jaguars because injuries may happen, but will happen. This is the NFL. That's kind of how it goes.
They are inevitable. I would even add this too, Travis. Let me be clear. It's not that the linebacker spot is a need. It's that the DBs are a bigger one, man. I get it. Devin Lloyd was awesome. Hey, let's pretend he can do what he did last year, or at least 70% of it. Cool. At day's end, the heir apparents were in the building already, allegedly, right? You can't say that about the corners right now, or at least not in the capacity where you've really seen them work, right? I love me some Caleb Bransall, or at least the thought of what he's supposed to be, but anyways.
But if someone were to sell me on, hey, yeah, Deontay Lawson is just the guy, then absolutely, because I actually do think he is kind of the guy. And I think
if we have the same board tomorrow, we could have a different opinion on it. Like those guys are that close in my mind. Seriously.
That's fair. And they are that close. So if you truly believe that Malik Muhammad is your guy, then this is not even a conversation. But also, if you believe Deontay Lawson is that dude, like Jamal, we had this conversation with Jamal St. Cyr when he was on. He was like, he actually likes Deontay Lawson over over Jacob Rodriguez. And I'm like, oh, so if that's truly how your board is set, then this is not a conversation. It truly is. No, we're going Deontay Lawson. So like, I'm not making, I know I have a DB bias. I'm very clear on that. I'm a former defensive back. I'm sorry. It is what it is. It's how I think.
I'll say this. Can a new corner beat out Christian Braswell? That's your line. If you think Malik Muhammad can beat out Christian Braswell, then you should take him. I think that's a great point by our favorite frenemy, Timmy Devil. And real quick, Swamp.
So.
What's that?
No, I'm just thinking I would hope so, but that's an interesting question. I really wasn't thinking about it in those terms.
That's a good way to put it. If you can't get above that bar, which that bar is not in hell, that's a pretty high bar. Okay, like I think that's a good way to look at it. And then Swamp Sound mentions, I was thinking linebacker was a need for you getting older, and we lost Evan Lloyd. No one's saying that's untrue. It's just a matter of which is the bigger need, is the tiebreaker between the player you have on the board. We're assessing that defensive back core is a bigger need.
No, I'm fully with you. So at the end of the day, just to cut this part of the conversation short, I will make the executive decision, if you don't mind, and still stick with Malik Muhammad for the purposes
I thought we had a consensus. What you mean?
Okay, I wanted to make sure.
I'm trying to tell the people this isn't just Travis bias. Kyle believes.
Right. I want to make sure, because again, this is a test, even from our perspective, even from my perspective. Like, hey, this could go right. I've had like 4 drafts that look great doing it this way, and this could go hellishly wrong. We're gonna find out together. We learning this together. But Malik Muhammad will be the pick, because I believe that is the top pick who is currently on this draft board, and we're gonna see how this bad boy looks like at the end of everything.
By the way, I don't know that we've said it out loud. We are not doing trades for the sake of this exercise. I would have totally taken what was there with the flipping Ravens throwing us 3 picks all in the 110 range for just pick 100. But I digress. Go ahead, Travis. Look there.
Look at God. Look at God.
Oh my God.
Look how God works. So for the audio side of things, just so y'all know, the Jaguars are currently at their pick 100, the last pick of the 3rd round, and Deontay Lawson, linebacker out of Alabama, it just still happens to be right available on the draft board. So that's what I'm talking about. God loves it when you just like follow his like lessons, and he gonna bless you. Amen.
Just pick that citrus off the tree. That's right.
Yeah, do we have to talk about this? Like, I think it's Deontay Lawson all day. This just happens to be where a linebacker happens to be a need, and it also happens to be the top guy on the board. Like, you can also argue that Dominique Orange is the top guy on the board, but you're not drafting 2.
No, Dominique Lawson, or excuse me, Deontay Lawson's the movie. Right? I'm making jokes about Big Citrus because I love that name. I'm sorry.
No, Big Citrus is dope. It's a great situation. So yes, welcome to Duval. In the words. Yeah, in the words of Radius, patience is a virtue. Welcome to Jacksonville, Deontay. That's what I'm talking about.
There you go.
So as it currently stands, the Jaguars have now drafted a swing tackle out of Arizona State, a nose tackle out of the University of Georgia, cornerback out of Texas, and a linebacker out of University of Alabama. So far, no 3 techniques, interestingly enough. Again, this is just funny how it works out. And I say this because you've heard me on how many podcasts now talk about Chris McLean? Like, 3rd guy on your draft board right now. 2 wide receivers as your first 2 guys. If you're a fan of Bryce Lance, or if you're a fan of Brenton Thompson, like, I fully understand that. But if you're looking at the top maybe 7 guys on this draft board, like Desmond Claiborne, like, he's a great, really, really fast running back tool to use, like the Miami Dolphins use Achan or something like that. Like, I understand that is a great argument, but from my perspective, I often said, like, if it wasn't Chris McLean, it was the guy out of Southeast Louisiana. But for the most part, this feels clear to me. Not as clear to PJ Brown, apparently, because he wants Lance all day.
Well, let me throw another wrench in this Humpy Bumpy. Why is this not an opportunity to snag a guard from O-line U? Billy Schrauth out of Notre Dame has to have a conversation at least. because that's the part of the line that's the weakest right now and needs that extra depth. I get it if you don't take that here, but the conversation has to be had.
I mean, I think the conversations absolutely should be had, but I also don't know that that's someone who he's going to help you in the 2027 season. But are we sure standing here right now that will be someone who will beat out Patrick McCarry? That's someone who will beat out Wyatt Milam with a year under his belt. Otherwise, we are just drafting a guy for the sake of. But I'm not trying to say, again, that's not what this was necessarily supposed to be for. It's supposed to be saying I'm drafting the best guy who's on the board. I think is going to be able to help my team maybe this year if there's injuries or whatever else. But
receiver,
if you think Billy Schrader is the guy.
Yeah, to your point, receiver is the move because he's more likely to get in the game and make an impact immediately. I agree with you.
And for me, it's Chris McLean, because I think he's one of the last guys who's like available, who can give you some rotational defensive tackle pass rush from that 3 technique spot. Like, so that was what it was always. That's what it always was for me, is if you're going to go that route, if it's not Chris McLean, it's Caleb Protzer out of Southeast Louisiana. Like, that was literally the options that were available as far as defensive tackle. And that's a need conversation, but he also just happens to be on their board, a top 3 guy. For me, that felt like you got a bucket full of guys and the need just happens to be close. That sounds like Chris McLean for me. If we are in agreement, cool. If we're not in agreement, we can have the conversation.
I'll go behind that theory for now, because the only spot that might be lighter is defensive tackle. But like I like that we're starting at BPA and then we're breaking ties with the need conversation 100%.
So, and that's what Radius is asking. Hey man, the receivers trying to pick up time off of who? Travis Hunter, Parker Washington? Like, that's a fair question.
Hunter's just a rotational guy, allegedly, right? And it's yeah. I mean, that aspect is how you would put him against a rookie. I get it. But I think the other element there too is this, right? Is he going to take, I mean, I don't think anybody's taking time from Parker Washington, but this is, I don't know if Tim Patrick is still on the roster, but you would be taking time from him more likely, or one of the other receivers deeper in the depth chart, certainly. And to your point, are they better than Parker Washington, or can they get there fast before Parker Washington gets more expensive? I don't think so, right?
That's the conversation. At least that's the question, I should say. That's sort of lingering here.
The lingering question. I agree with
you. All right. So now we are at pick I'm sorry, goodness. We're at pick 164 for the Jaguars, which is in the 5th round of the NFL draft. With the Jaguars.
And keep in mind, they also picked, we're about the same thing. They're just about to pick 2 picks later. Yeah, exactly.
So we got at the top of the draft board, cornerback out of Stephen F. Austin, Charlie Demmings, which small school prospect, but you've had a lot of good small school prospects in the NFL that actually have worked out very well. So that's not to say he can't play. It's just to say it's going to be a jump up in talent, and you're going to have to. That's majorly heavily on your projections. Lewis Moore out of Indiana, safety, and Zane Durant, defensive tackle out of Penn State, as your top 3 guys. Do any of them reach out? Any of them screaming out to you? Because I know, again, my bias. I know where my bias is. I'm not even pretending out here.
And you're going to go full small school on me here, which I'm not necessarily mad about. The jersey they wore in school shouldn't make the decision, but I would at least hint at, if you're somebody who likes Cyrus Allen to do a particular thing here out of Cincinnati, that's an option here as well. The point being made here in the comments is, they're not, Timmy Devil points out, they're not going to try to have Parker returning kicks at the same rate, I don't think. So, a punt returner / kick returner is necessary.
Because I do believe that they're going to have Parker Washington still returning kicks, even if he's going to be one of your top 3 receivers, because that's a huge part of his game of getting him paid. I think he'd probably want to continue returning kicks, returning punt returns. And there's a other conversation about Bayshaw Tootin, who at one point was top of the league in his kick returns. Is he going to be returning kicks as often, or are you going to have to keep DJ Dallas on the team just for that purpose? Like, that's a whole different part of the conversation. What are your thoughts on Zane Durant out of Penn State?
Cal Jaguar in the comments.
Yeah, I honestly don't have a thought on it. I don't know enough about him, honestly. I hate to speak on someone who if I haven't watched their tape. That's
You can
another
say
guy
I'll
to get
have
put on my
something for
list.
him next. Hey, listen, this is only Mock Draft 2.0. There's more times and more things to unfurl here, man. And I believe that name came up last time. So there's all of that too.
Yeah, I mean that's also fair. So overall, like we have our 5 guys. I was actually a little bit leaning towards Lewis Moore because I was happy that he's well. When I said my bias, I was talking about my bias on defensive backs, not necessarily.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about Charlie Demings. Yeah, my bad.
But
I don't think safety. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I don't think safety is just about bias here. I think this is, and we've had this conversation. I think safety is a position that's actively evolving. You know, Ray Lane, Caleb Bransall, both are in the running, sure, but that doesn't mean you have all the decisions made. We don't know what's going on with Eric Murray. There's so much stuff in play, man. I'm not saying that this is a Darnell Savage situation. I don't think they're that bad off, but you know, what if Eric Murray is finding himself not having recovered from that neck injury all that great? I don't know.
Well, he's an older prospect, and normally, you know, I like that. Just like the Rams, the Jaguars are one of those teams who like drafting those guys who are up in age. You know, just that's what Jack Kaiser was like. I believe it was 24, 25 when they drafted him, because you get more production out of those guys who are generally more mature. Like, so I know he was a JUCO transfer. I forgot what school it was. Jesus, I'm drawing a blank. I know he was a JUCO transfer, and overall was aiming for that 6 year in college. So, like, if you can get a guy like that in your 5th round who can step in and immediately give you something at the safety room, you don't know exactly what Caleb Bransall is going to look like when he comes back from his injury, because you kind of was sight unseen, and you want to raise the ceiling of that room. Then that's actually where I was going. So I was actually leaning Lewis Moore over Charlie Demings. Not to say I don't like Charlie Demings. It's just to say I didn't have him as one of the top guys on my board, because
I think Lewis Moore is the better move here too. I think that's the right thing.
All right, cool. Then let's keep that bad boy going. Lewis Moore out of Indiana, and the Jaguars are right back on the board with Charlie Demings going to the Buffalo Bills. So we are back here. So this is the one for me, just because I simply don't have a good opinion on Zane Durant. You know, Devin Marshall, cornerback from NC State, Cyrus Allen from the wide receiver out of Cincinnati. I know that would seem to be one that you were in on.
I was thinking about it. Yeah.
That's where you're leaning, basically.
However, I'm noticing that Marlon Klein is sneaking up in there, tight end out of Michigan. But is he the right type of tight end? Is this a blocking body that can do some things while also catching the ball? That's the question.
I don't know. I hate when we get to the later rounds, because I know a lot of guys in the late rounds. But when you get into the 5th and the late in the 5th and the 6th rounds, then I'm just like, okay, cool. But I don't think this one is as hard for me, because I think I'm still going with Tucker out of goodness gracious, Tucker out of Western Michigan.
Oh, Nadine Tucker, so you can get that edge. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, I mean that's where I'm leaning, anyways. And it's not to say I think the competition was probably between him and Cyrus Allen at wide receiver out of Cincinnati. But that's kind of where I was going, because I know he kind of worked his way up from being like in small school. I believe he was might even being no star prospect coming out of high school. And I just think that's a reasonable situation when you have guys on your roster like a Tim Jones, and Austin Trammell still playing in that 5th receiver spot. You don't want that. Sunstain, there you go. One injury, then Trammell is going to get meaningful snaps again. Yikes. I think that's actually reasonable. I didn't say the yikes. The yikes was a comment, just to be clear.
Yeah, but I see what he's getting at too. Radius poses a question I think we need to clarify for the commenters and at large as well. So you think edge depth is worse than wide receiver edge? Wide receiver depth. Wide receiver depth, I assume, is what he means. Yes. Absolutely, yes. I don't think that's close in particular, especially if BTJ comes back to form, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, that answer is yes, right? Because it's Jacoby, it's BTJ. Travis Hunter is going to get sprinkled in there. Shoot, Parker there somewhere. See how I fit it in there nicely, right? You know, at this point, you're already 5 deep, and we're not even talking about Austin Trammell yet, right? Now, granted, if you think your guy is better than Trammell, there's this case to be made to draft him. Clearly, Robbie Santos would have made the draft. We can't be stuck with Austin Trammell at that 5th receiver spot, he says in the comments.
That's it. So I think it's very clear I mean, again, I think it's very clear. Like, obviously, when you get into that fifth receiver spot, you're going to need a guy that can play special teams. That's got to be a big part of it. But that's why, again, you got guys like Tim Jones and Austin Trammell who are there. I still think you have options available, but I think Sirius Allen is probably going to be the route to go. Personally, that's kind of why.
So you're going with Cyrus. Okay, I thought you were going to take the edge, but yeah, either works for me.
No. I understand the argument from both sides of the equation.
Got it.
I lean the edge. It sounded like you were leaning wide receiver, and I was just trying to make it so there wasn't an argument. That's all.
No, I got the edge too. Absolutely.
All right, cool. Then cool. I know the chat disagrees, but I'm sorry, y'all. This.
Some people dig the edge spot too. But it's a great combo to have. Like even PJ Browning here mentioned, draft the receiver and stop playing man. Well, I mean, not much we could do about that. But look, John Michael Gillenborg out of Wyoming. This ain't even a combo. Give me my tight end. Give me my tight end.
It's not. It's not a conversation. That was a very easy one for us. So thank you.
Listen, divers, I don't say this to you much because y'all are a bunch of ball novers who I love desperately. But when it comes to that one, argue with your mama. We took the tight end. There we go. Okay.
I'm here for it. No, I'm here for it. Like, and unfortunately, one of my late round guys. Well, we don't need him in this draft because I like Albert Regis, the nose tackle out of Texas A&M, because he's been going late in a lot of drafts and he gives you a lot of what Devon Hamilton gives you. But unfortunately, or fortunately for this mock draft, we already got us someone else to do that exact same thing in Christian Miller earlier in the draft, so we're good. It's not something where they're in need or they're missing anything there. And when you get into the 7th round, when you get into the late 6th round, that's when you're just looking at guys for trades.
You got some strong feelings in the comments though, Travis.
People like Eli. I thought this is crazy because I had that same conversation on the draft pod with Jamal St. Cyr, and now they like Eli all of a sudden. This is funny. Oh, I guess this is not even a conversation, y'all.
Okay, hey, listen, we'll go argue with our mamas, I guess, is what's happening right now.
Not much of a conversation needed. The guys in the chat have spoken, and I kind of gave my argument on the draft, on the Jamal St. Cyr mock draft 1.0. Eli Heidenreich as the Jacksonville Jaguars pick at 233. Let's go. And for the final pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars, quote unquote, Mr. Irrelevant. I got mine. I know who I want. But
are you going running back or are you going Jack Kelly?
I'm going running back.
I knew it. I don't see Kalen Black. I didn't see him. I figured. No, I'm joking.
Jamari Taylor, because Caleb Black is not on the board. I mean, and that's the only reason. Because Caleb Black's my guy.
Yeah, Caleb Black's long gone by now. Yeah,
he's been gone. Jack Kelly has also been in a lot of my mock drafts just because I think he's a reasonably solid player, but also I don't think he's so significantly different than Jack Kaiser. So then at that point, then we're just drafting the next another guy to compete behind Fourier and trying to figure out what that looks like. But overall, that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at Jamari Taylor personally. Do you have anyone late in the draft that you're interested in looking at, or are we good there? Because
that I'm pounding. Go ahead.
Kali Kamara too. Oh, Jesus, I got an issue now.
Well, and I don't know where it fits in the best available conversation, but I don't know if you're trying to get quarterback backup conversation in here too. And it wouldn't be him, but
it wouldn't be Joe? No.
Yeah.
No. So when I wrote my Big Cat Country article talking about backup quarterbacks, everything that was out there told me that this guy was the most consistent, the most stable.
Oh, it was him. Okay, I didn't realize that was your dude. My bad.
No. Yeah, it was. So I wasn't even thinking about backup quarterback because it might be a guy you potentially can get as an undrafted free agent. I mean, you literally are a few picks from being at the end of the draft. When the Jaguars are drafting their final pick at 245. So unless this guy becomes a Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, you might have a chance to get him an undrafted free agent. We're talking about Joe Fagnano. What is it?
Fagnano.
Goodness gracious. I've never heard his name. I only see the film because I don't watch them with sound. And I was just like, no. You can build on top of it, sure. But at the end of the day, like Kali Kamara, the edge out of Indiana, is a guy who was literally is on my list as the final guy that I wanted on my list as my final guy. And now that I see him, I'm just like, oh, that sucks because I still want Jamari Taylor, the running back out of Virginia.
And I get Caleb Douglas being the vote there for some of y'all too. Depending on where he is on the Jags board there, I can see that happening. But again, it's that room. What you got in that room? You know, like that whole thing.
But
Yeah, it was ludicrous what I tried to do right there.
I'm going to trump myself. Forget running back. I don't even care.
What?
But just to be clear, and because I'm on a different mock draft, I would have taken a running back way earlier, and I would have probably pissed a lot of people off. And I want to be very succinct in saying this, because a lot of people keep telling me we don't need more running backs. We don't need more running backs. We don't need more running backs. When I talk about the drafting the running back early in the fourth, or in the third or something like that. And my answer to that is, you don't know what you need. If you're going to allow a guy who signed for a $6 million guaranteed to stop you from drafting what potentially could be a great 3-down running back, you don't know what you have in Bashaw Tootin. You truly don't. You hope that it's going to be great. You hope that the fumble injury issue is not going to pop back up. You hope that he can continue breaking tackles and may have those explosive games, and he can be what Travis Etienne was as far as those explosives. You hope. That's a lot of hope. But if you can draft another guy that say, all right, this is going to be my 3-down guy, I don't need hope. I just need competition. Like, so I'm okay drafting another guy and just letting them fight it out. I'm not letting a 7th round draft pick, as much as I love them, and LaQuint Allen stop me from drafting another back. I'm not letting a guy who for $6 million. If you wouldn't let De'Ami Brown with $10 million guaranteed stop you from drafting a wide receiver, then why would you stop Chris Rodriguez who's making $6 million guaranteed stop you from drafting a running back? Make it make sense, bro. Like, so that's where I am with that. But just to get off my soapbox, at the end of the day, I have kind of talked my way out of, say, I want Kamara, the edge, out of Indiana, so we can double up. I believe somebody else said it already. A double dip on edge, and one of them will start. If they don't start, they will get meaningful snaps anyways. So
when it comes to hope, Travis says nope. That's all I'm saying.
Not hope, nope. Jesus. Wait, did we have another pick this whole time? And did I miss that?
Yeah, I guess you did, bro.
Guess
so
what?
Did I. It's okay.
We still get the running back.
Now you got your running back. Booyah!
Jamari Taylor, let's go. Come on down, brother.
It looks like you missed on your quarterback, bro. Oh no, he's still there. Perfect. So you get Joe Fagnano as a UDFA, so you're good there. You got your running back there to close it out after Kamara. Heidenreich, the commenters love at the 233 pick out of Navy coming up there. Then I think my favorite pick in this draft is clearly John Michael Gillenberg, tight end out of Wyoming at 203. The Nadeem Tucker, the edge out of Western Michigan. Those aren't the Hilltoppers. That's Western Kentucky. That's the Hilltoppers. My bad. But again, that's the edge double dip. Lewis Moore, the safety out of Indiana, where he is at 164. Travis, I give you credit for keeping me from making that mistake. Chris McLennan at defensive tackle. That's not Kalen Black, but that's Travis's guy. He's going to be excited for the Missouri man to do the thing.
Yes.
Deontay Lawson. If you didn't like John Michael Gillenborg as much as I did, Deontay Lawson's probably your favorite pick in this draft. I'm just going to say it. Malik Muhammad is a good one too, I think, at 88 at corner. Christian Miller out of Georgia, 81. And then our first pick, number 56, offensive tackle, Max Ianacre out of Arizona State. I did not expect that to happen, but my warm, beefy heart smiles.
And I hated the way that the board fell, and I still think it came together well. And that's the part that I think is insane in my head, because I'm like, you have a swing tackle on the same month that you just signed Anton Harrison, 5th-year option picked up. You have this allows you to move off of Walker Little also, just to be clear. Now that you have a secondary option as far as the swing tackle is concerned, you still have depth at cornerback with Malik Muhammad. You have good running linebacker options as far as Ventrell Miller and Deontay Lawson. Just kind of figure that part out. Again, we weren't looking at the positions. We were just trying to figure it out as far as the best guys who are available there. And that makes this a much better conversation. Again, the Lewis Moore pick was the best pick from my perspective, just because it allows Caleb Bransall to come back slowly if he needs to. And also, if you have any injury situations, you don't have to depend on someone like a Dewey Wingert. No offense to Dewey, but you have someone who is younger.
He's in Arizona now anyway, right? So
yeah. So that's what Sunstain says. I wanted trench depth. this looks good. That's all that I'm saying. Like, if you go BPA, you're probably going to work out. And this is probably one of my worst drafts that I've seen using this technique. Also, my first time using Pro Football Network. But I just wanted to see how the different.
You know what the seal of approval? You know what the seal of approval truly is? Timmy Devil. Christian Miller is the only pick I don't like. So out of these 11 picks, he's only got a problem with one.
That means we doing well. Let's go. And the only problem I had with this bad boy is that we didn't get an H-back type of tight end. That was it. Otherwise, I would have been very happy with it, because don't threaten me with a good time. Don't threaten me with a fullback. Like, that's that's the only thing I think we're missing right now. Actually,
Sir, your disrespect for LaQuint Allen is noted. I'll try not to tell him to his face about it.
That man, fullback, but you know what I mean. Like, he's a good back. He's a good physical back, but I need a fullback on this roster, and H-back, and however you get it.
Like, this team isn't coached by a Harbaugh. You aren't getting a fullback.
I don't need a fullback. But if you give me somebody like the dude from Riley and what is it? Nowalski. I forget what school he's from. It's like one of the red schools. It's Indiana. Goodness, like, that's a fullback. That's a guy who puts people in the dirt, like, in fakes. Like, that's what I'm talking about. And he's a 7th round, 6th round type of guy. Like, that's what I'm referencing when I say fullback. You don't got to be a full-time, his only position is fullback. He can be a tight end who can play H-back. That's my point. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. Like, John Michael Gillenberg, like, Gillenborg has more pass catching in his game than that. But yeah, you need a Greg Jones type of back, like Robert Levinson said. Like, again, don't the man, if he'll chirp at next, he'll demolish. He's I don't know what he's trying to say. He'll demolish.
He's talking about your LaQuint Allen disrespect. If he'll chirp at Max Crosby, he'll demolish that.
I hear you, bro. I just don't threaten me with a good time. Don't tempt me with the fullback. Like, that's what I'm here for, bro. I need that in my life. So that's where I'm at. Like, I want to see the Jacksonville Jaguars team be a little bit more physical. So if that means that we can get more help on the swing tackle, maybe even put them in an interior line, or just get more interior line help and get bigger there, I'm all on board with that. And Sunstein, hey, yeah, swap Miller for Big Citrus, and it'd be perfect. Which we passed over Citrus 2 times, right?
Here's the thing. I find it interesting that the guy with a giant orange ball for his avatar on YouTube is the one that wants Big Citrus. I'm just throwing it out there, Travis.
So, man wants more citrus, like more cowbell. I got you. So yeah,
you're gonna want that.
But that overall, that is our mock draft 2.0. If we're only looking at BPA based on how this draft board fell. Tomorrow's draft board obviously could fall a little bit differently, but we'll see how that looks. And we have a very, very special guest that's going to be joining us this Wednesday. I'm still not going to say it out loud. I just want to let people find out randomly how this is going to work out. So that's why we'll be having Wednesday's podcast at 9 p.m. But I think y'all might want to join in live for that one, getting them comments. Let's just say that way. But yeah. You already know you can find me, guys. Travis D. Holmes, BigCatCountry.com, where we get all of your Jacksonville Jaguars written coverage. But also here on the Duval Dive, if you're listening to the sound of my voice, please click that like button. Please click that subscribe button. You know, hit us up on the Duval Dive, TikTok, on X, everywhere else. And let them know where you can be found, bro.
Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Thread, and Blue Sky at the SOTG. Travis and Divers, thanks for helping me figure out what on earth StreamYard was smoking tonight. Apparently, it was something to do with the auto mic adjustment. It was trying to do something completely weird. I turned that off and it started working. Isn't it funny how that works? So yeah, I'm gloating that I did the in-flight production move and fixed my stuff. So yay. But anyways, make sure, guys, if you are following the UFL at all, you'll follow the Orlando Storm at some point, which means you should follow at some point me and Brian Paul, a.k.a. BP, and my coverage of the UFL on the Storm Surge podcast. That's a good time all the way around. Make sure you check that out. Of course, my work covering the Orlando Magic. Nicely terry-rigged. Thank you, Radius. Of course, check out my work covering the Orlando Magic. And, of course, Locked On UCF and UCF Night Zone. I'll be doing my work there as well. You'll see me flex my muscle covering women's basketball. That's right. They're going to replace their women's basketball coach. Much love to Satia Messer, but the organization has moved on from her. And, of course, spring practice starts on March 31st, aka tomorrow morning, as this is being streamed such that it is. So I'll have some things to talk about with Mikey G and company there. So make sure you check that out if you follow the Knights. So, Divers, great work. Travis, great work. Until next time, everybody, class dismissed.